What if everything you know about yourself is wrong? What if the conversations you replay in your mind are not yours at all, but carefully rewritten fragments of someone else's design? Imagine sitting across from a person you trust, a friend, a partner, a parent, a leader, and you tell them about something that just happened. They look you in the eye, steady, calm, unwavering, and they tell you, "That never happened." At first you laugh, at first you resist, but then you pause just for a second, because their conviction feels heavier than your memory. You shake it off. But later that night, you replay the moment, and suddenly the edges of your memory blur. Was it really like you thought? Or could they be right? This is how gaslighting twists your reality, in seconds, in whispers, in shadows, and once it begins, the unraveling doesn't stop. Gaslighting is not just a lie. A lie is fragile. It collapses under proof. Gaslighting is different. It doesn't aim to convince you of a single falsehood. It aims to strip away your trust in your own perception so that you begin to doubt everything. It is the art of breaking your inner compass. Once you no longer believe in your own memory, your own feelings, your own thoughts, you will turn outward for direction. And that's when you become controllable. You don't need chains to be imprisoned. You don't need walls to be trapped. Gaslighting creates a prison inside your mind, and you willingly lock the door. It begins small, always small. A denial here, a correction there. Words that sound harmless. You're imagining things. That's not how it happened. You're too sensitive. You push back at first. You argue. You try to prove your memory. But they remain calm. They remain steady. And in that contrast, a seed of doubt forms, because your brain is wired to believe confidence. If someone is calm while you are shaken, your mind interprets calmness as truth. That's the first fracture. Our memories are fragile. They are not perfect recordings. Each time we recall a moment, we rebuild it in our minds, and each rebuild is vulnerable to influence. Gaslighters exploit this. They press against your weak spots. They repeat denials with unwavering certainty. They use your own emotions against you, and slowly, you begin to feel like maybe the problem isn't them. It's you. Maybe you really are too sensitive. Maybe you really do overreact. Maybe you really are remembering wrong. This erosion doesn't happen all at once. It's drip by drip, like water carving stone, slow but unstoppable. Each denial chips away at your certainty. Each dismissal scrapes against your confidence. And one day, without even realizing it, you stop fighting back. You begin to accept their version of events as more reliable than your own. And when that day comes, your reality is no longer yours. Gaslighting thrives in relationships. Think of the partner who cheats but insists you're paranoid. You find evidence, but they twist it. You're crazy. You're imagining things. They don't just deny, they attack your sanity. And soon you stop confronting them, not because you trust them, but because you no longer trust yourself. Or the parent who invalidates every emotion. That didn't hurt. You shouldn't feel that way. Over years, the child grows into an adult who doubts every instinct, every feeling, every decision. Their inner voice is silenced before it even learns how to speak. But gaslighting doesn't live only in homes and relationships. It thrives in workplaces. The boss who tells you they never promised you that raise, even though you remember the conversation. The colleague who subtly rewrites history in meetings until everyone doubts your contributions. Over time, you shrink. You speak less. You apologize more. You become easier to control. And gaslighting doesn't stop with individuals. It infects entire societies. History is rewritten. Facts are twisted. Leaders tell you that never happened. News shifts into propaganda. When repeated enough, entire populations begin to doubt their own memory of events. Entire cultures start to mistrust their perception of reality. This is how manipulation turns into control. Not through force, but through confusion. A confused mind seeks certainty. And whoever provides that certainty, no matter how false, becomes the authority. The most terrifying part is how subtle it feels. Gaslighting is not dramatic. It's quiet. It's calm. It's surgical. It makes you question whether you are the problem. And once you start questioning yourself, you spiral deeper. Every time you feel anger, you wonder if you're overreacting. Every time you feel sadness, you wonder if you're being too emotional. Every time you remember something clearly, you wonder if you're misremembering. You begin to live in a fog, and in that fog, you are no longer you. Think about the phrase, "you're too sensitive." It sounds harmless, doesn't it? But when repeated for years, it teaches you to distrust your emotions. You begin to see your sensitivity as weakness. You stop speaking up. You stop expressing yourself. You silence yourself before anyone else can. That's the brilliance of gaslighting. It makes you police your own mind. Or consider the phrase, "that never happened." The first time you hear it, you argue. The second time, you hesitate. By the 10th time, you no longer argue at all. You accept their denial because the fight feels exhausting. And in that exhaustion, your reality crumbles. Gaslighting twists the relationship between confidence and truth. Normally, we think truth creates confidence. But in gaslighting, confidence creates truth. Whoever is more unshakable wins. And since the gaslighter refuses to bend, refuses to show doubt, refuses to ever acknowledge your perspective, their version becomes dominant. Your own truth dissolves in the face of their certainty. Over time, this changes you. Your self-esteem erodes. Your self-image collapses. You begin to see yourself not as you are, but as they describe you. If they call you unstable, you feel unstable. If they call you irrational, you begin to believe it. If they call you crazy, you carry that label like a secret weight. And the cruelest part is that even when you suspect you are being manipulated, you doubt that suspicion too. Gaslighting makes you doubt the doubt itself. Think about the long-term effect. A person who has been gaslighted for years no longer trusts their memory. They second-guess every decision. They replay every conversation. They seek external validation for every thought. They become dependent on the gaslighter for reality. And that dependency is the ultimate goal. When you doubt yourself enough, you surrender control. And when you surrender control, you can be led anywhere. But the darkness goes deeper. Gaslighting doesn't only manipulate your mind, it reshapes your identity. Your sense of self is built on memory and emotion. If those are destroyed, who are you? Without trust in your thoughts, you are hollow. And into that hollow space, the gaslighter writes their own version of you. They define your worth. They define your truth. They define your reality. And you accept it because you no longer know how to resist. Now imagine this on a larger scale. Imagine entire populations gaslighted by leaders. That crisis never happened. Those voices don't matter. What you saw with your own eyes isn't real. Slowly, history bends. Reality bends. And people no longer trust themselves enough to resist. This is how manipulation turns into obedience. This is how power sustains itself. Not through chains, not through violence, but through control of the mind. And here is the most haunting truth. Gaslighting doesn't always come from others. Sometimes it comes from within. When you repeat their words enough times, they become your own. You tell yourself, "I'm too sensitive." You whisper, "I'm overreacting." You think, "Maybe I am crazy." You internalize their voice until it replaces your own. And at that moment, the gaslighter doesn't even need to be present anymore. Their work is complete. You are now your own manipulator. This is why gaslighting is so effective. It is not about convincing you of a false story. It is about breaking the storyteller inside you. Once that voice is silenced, once your reality is shattered, they win. So how do you fight it? How do you reclaim yourself when the prison is inside your own head? It begins with one act. choosing to trust your perception again, even when it's messy, even when it's uncertain, even when they call you wrong. You must anchor yourself in your own memory, your own emotion, your own truth. Because the moment you start believing yourself again, the gaslighter loses power. But this is not easy, because escaping gaslighting feels like walking through fog. Every step forward feels uncertain. Every decision feels risky. You will doubt yourself. You will want to run back to the comfort of their certainty. But that comfort is poison. To reclaim yourself, you must learn to sit with doubt and still move forward. You must learn to trust the faint whispers of your own voice until they grow louder again. And here's the final twist. Gaslighting teaches you just how fragile reality is. It shows you that truth is not only about facts. It is about confidence, memory, emotion, perception. It reveals the cracks in the human mind. And in that revelation, there is danger, but also power. Because once you see how reality can be twisted, you also see how it can be rebuilt. You see that if others can manipulate your mind, then you can reclaim it, sharpen it, and guard it. So remember this: reality can be stolen in seconds, but it can also be reclaimed. Every time you choose to trust your memory, you rebuild yourself. Every time you trust your emotions, you reclaim your voice. Every time you say, I know what I saw, I know what I felt, I know what happened, you take one step out of the fog. Gaslighting is the art of control, but awareness is the beginning of freedom. The darkness lies in doubt, but the light begins the moment you trust yourself again.